Friends, this week on The Way of Wonder, we're exploring the question of, do our bodies really matter for the Christian story? Do they really matter for redemption? Do they really matter for healing? What's the significance of the body in this whole thing anyway?
Friends, welcome back to The Way of Wonder, a journey through art and beauty and all kinds of stuff. I'm here with Father Patrick Schultz from Ohio, and we are going to...
H-I-O.
Oh, yeah. You know how many states... There's a lot of vowels in state names. Like a lot of vowels. And so many states end with A. We're not going to go there now, but think about it. Start thinking about it. It's a lot of states that end with a vowel. This is the worst intro ever. Great to see you again, Father Pat.
You too, buddy.
I've really enjoyed all these episodes. You know, we're close to like 24 or so of, it's quite a plethora of things we've talked about and pieces that we've looked at.
Yeah.
And we always appreciate people tagging along and sharing it and throwing down their own thoughts on it.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. So this is a chance for us to relax a little bit and have a great chat in our week and just see what strikes us. Again, this isn't scripted, friends. We just surprise each other with a piece of art or whatever, and then we just respond. And we invite you, the viewers, to do the same, to just let it bombard you, and feel free again to share your own thoughts and insights in the comments below. So, Father Pat, I am in the posture of Marian receptivity right now.
Yeah, you are. Okay,
yes, right.
So it's
Darn tootin'.
It's darn tootin'.
Darn
So it's been a
tootin'.
few weeks now since I got back from the Holy Land. I was in the Holy Land a few weeks ago with an awesome group of wonderful folks from Damascus Catholic Mission Campus. I got to be the chaplain for this awesome pilgrimage.
Wow.
Went to all the great places. Went to all the places, and one of the places that was on the itinerary that was probably going to get scrapped that morning because things were tight was Magdala. So Magdala, obviously the home of Mary Magdalene.
Yeah.
A number of years ago, this incredible archaeological discovery was found there. This first century synagogue, and ancient Magdala was found there. And anyway, so the legionnaires, they have this beautiful center that's built there, and the center is in some ways dedicated to or honors the women that Jesus lived with, traveled with, ministered to. It's just a beautiful celebration of the feminine genius in relationship to the bridegroom. And there's this unbelievably beautiful mural that's massive, that's in this chapel that's the floor itself is a first century floor. Like you're on this first century floor.
Which alone is unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah. So the painting is called The Encounter. Thomas, let's bring it up here. I think it's by I think he's Argentinian.
Oh.
An Argentinian artist named Daniel Carriola.
Oh, man. Wow. Look at that. This is the entire piece.
Yeah, it's probably about 12, maybe 12 to 14 feet long. And so if you're not quite sure what you're looking at, you're seeing depicted
I can see it.
Creatively the hemorrhaging woman pressing her way through the crowd, thinking, if I could only touch the hem of his garment, then I'll be healed.
Wow, unbelievable. And her hand centered. And that's a spark of light there, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So what are your initial reactions there, Bill?
Yeah, I mean, I asked because it's you don't see art like this. You don't see it so guiding to one very specific piece. You would think, oh, this is a section or a detail of a larger work, but the work is large. This is the larger work.
Yeah.
It's this. Yeah. I'm so moved. Yeah, I'm very moved by the touch point and that light, of course, and that center. And it's so wonderful because this is the dusty, dirty road. These are feet. You know, this is like, you don't.
Those are his feet.
Those are his
Yeah.
feet. But and you don't. It's like who looks down, who goes down. Well, she was down there in
Yeah.
that dusty, dirty, jostling place where you could be trampled. Like she's down there, which kind of to me in this visual shows like her own sense of. It's almost like she's groveling for God's mercy. She's just like feels so. This wound has so wounded her and taken her down that she's not like reaching for his shoulder, in the gospel.
Yeah.
She's so abject. She's so down. That's what she grasps. There's a whole spirituality here of littleness, of lowliness.
It reminds me also of the woman who, I think it's the Syrophoenician woman who's begging Jesus to come lay hands on her daughter. She's not well. And the whole, I was sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. It's not right to feed the scraps to the dogs. And her response is, even the dogs eat the scraps that fall at the master's table. In other words, like,
Yeah.
I am so content just to be a little dog at your feet, if that means that I can get the little scraps that fall from your goodness.
That gospel's crazy, by the way, Father Pat. That gospel always gets me.
Yeah.
Because you know that Jesus isn't like this, high and mighty, shuffling off. You can almost see him like tongue in cheek or with a wry smile, sort of like, I know your answer. And this is what this is the sort of paradigm you've been told by others, perhaps. So I'm going to play into it for a minute and to pull out, right, the glory of God and how he will lift up the little ones. But yeah, her humility in saying that, fantastic.
Yeah. Can you zoom back out there for a second, Thomas?
Wow.
Yeah, gosh. So one of the things that struck me this last time that I was there that I hadn't thought about before. So the feet on the left side, they're not facing out, right?
Yeah, right.
I just was in my imagination I was picturing the rest of that body. And what occurred to me was, is this one of the apostles who's like trying to stop this woman? Is this like one of the guys running, interference defense, and she like ducks down to go even, to swoop down below him. It's just a fascinating, just creative depiction of it.
Creative. It's it feels like cinema. It feels like a screenshot from the Passion of the Christ or something.
Yeah.
I'm really, really struck by her being. This is a static shot, of course, but there's motion and movement. This how threatening this was for her to be stampeded. Honestly.
Yeah.
So this it's almost like the hand of Adam in Michelangelo's work, like reaching out, stretching out, longing for life. She's just like, it's that that's definitive of every human being, right? Like this deep thirst for wholeness. And then that mind-blowing moment, right, when power goes out of him. And that's what he says.
That
power goes out of him. And look at that. You can almost
out of
like
his
you can
body.
Yeah, right. In fact, out of the like third-class relic, like the robe, you can see above the spark of light at her fingertip there that other, almost like a rainbow arc of light. It's almost like that moment when sorry, this is weird, but the Death Star blew up. There's like that light, boom, almost like there's an aftershock, and everybody's boom. There's a ripple.
I thought you were going to say, you probably saw a few years ago that whole, I don't know where those researchers did these experiments, but seeing the moment of conception, how there's that fluorescent release explosion of light. Yeah.
That's better than Star Wars.
I was thinking about that.
Yeah, we'll take that.
Out of Death Star, get out of here. We'll do
get out of here, Death Star. This is a Life Star.
Yeah. So a few things that really move me about this are just the fact that, like, these are God's toes. Let's just start with that. Like, these are God's toes. Last week we were talking all about the whole notion of embodiment again, right? That that God has come to us in the flesh. He reveals divine mystery in the flesh. And it's human flesh that has toes and toenails. Like these are God's toenails being depicted. And
Pray on that. Pray about
and
that.
yeah. And the fact, as you said a moment ago too, that power went out of his body and it goes into her body. Not in any generalized way, but like precisely at the place of her greatest fear and shame and woundedness, precisely like in her femininity. Like
Wow.
that's where the
Wow.
flow of blood dries.
Wow.
Like the power goes out of his body into her body. It's embodied.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm thinking so many of the miracles of Jesus. I mean, he could certainly, heal the centurion's servant. He could do things from afar. Obviously, he can. But I feel like most of them, what would the percentage be? 95 are touch. And that's so important. They're touch. They're very intimate touch, body to body. The body is, what's that Irenaeus quote from the second century? The flesh is the hinge of salvation. The flesh. Tertullian. Ooh, I stand corrected. The flesh is the hinge of salvation. Like, let's say that again for the third time. The flesh is the hinge of salvation. So salvation swings on the flesh. Not my thoughts, not the spirit, divorced from the flesh, but the flesh.
Yeah. So if you were the enemy, what's the thing that you'd be going after?
The flesh.
The flesh.
Yep, make it irrelevant.
You'd be trying to confuse us about our flesh, the meaning of our flesh, like all of the words that reveal flesh, like words like mother, words like father, husband, wife, marriage, like all of those words presuppose bodies. They presuppose an embodied reality. So if you are the anti-word, if you are the enemy, if you want to confuse the most people and cause the most damage, you go after the hinge, which is the flesh.
And the full blossoming of man and woman in and through the flesh, through things like mother, father, brother, sister. Right, those words that matter because matter matters. I'm just thinking of a tweet. This is probably a couple years ago. It was a tweet from a major news source. I think it was CNN, talking about getting cancer screenings at a younger age, and it said individuals with a cervix should begin cancer screenings at the age of. It literally said individuals with a cervix. Now, Father Pat, what's another name for that individual?
A woman.
A woman, right? Or years ago, there was an actress who couldn't conceive, so once they had a child, they used a surrogate, but they said, I want to thank my gestational carrier for the gift of my daughter, or whatever it was. So literally calling a mother a gestational carrier. These are things, again, I think the evil one rejoices over it because you further besmeared and bewildered us about like the real meaning of words and the real meaning of the flesh, or who we are.
Yeah, and it obscures everything in Christianity, right? Again, if the flesh is the hinge of salvation, if we don't know really what the flesh is, if we really don't know what the one flesh union is, if we don't really know what if how power goes forth from this man's body, all of these things, if all of these things are obscured, if all the signs and symbols are muddied up, then when we come to like the faith itself, when we hear the priest say the body of Christ, it loses its meaning.
Wow, yeah.
Like the antidote is lost on us. And I think that's what the enemy's, I mean, a hinge connects two things, right? So like God's access to humanity and humanity's access to God, it comes around the hinge of the flesh.
Yeah.
And so he's going after that exact point to prevent both.
That's a John Paul II thought where he says the body entered theology through the main door. The body entered theology through the main door, and that's the incarnation. That's him. There's no other way. There's no way. We often say this at the Institute, right? There's no way to the supernatural by bypassing the natural. Like you can't go around the body. You can't escape the body. You can't live a disembodied life. You can't act as if the flesh doesn't matter. Matter matters. It's the only way to the supernatural is through the natural. So this is the whole work of a life, right? Is it like this integration and this settling into the gift of my body? Okay, well, maybe it came from a broken place. Maybe your conception was a real horror story. God's mercy on that. Maybe you've done stuff. It's been done unto you that have really desecrated your body. Well, we still can't escape the body. We can't. We have to go into those places and into those wounds and just ask for the grace to come flooding in. Which again, back to this gorgeous painting. That wound of this woman that she carried for, was it 18 years? The hemorrhage, 18 or 12?
No, I think it was 12 years because it paralleled the 12-year-old girl.
Oh, yeah. Right. So that is a long time, and how easily would that become part of this woman's identity? Yeah. And yet she brings that herself, her body, herself right to him, and he heals her. And then that becomes like the glory scar, the glory scar. Gosh.
One of the things I think is fascinating is modern psychology, neuroscience, what we're coming to understand is in terms of trauma and trauma therapy, where people store trauma, not just in your neural synapses, they're not just in your memory, this sort of wispy spiritual place. We carry trauma in our bodies, like our bodies carry trauma. Yeah. Like what happened to us, whether emotionally or psychologically or even physically, like all of those traumas, they are embodied realities. Wow. And so when we hear Jesus or St. Paul talking about the redemption of the body, it's like, yeah, that's the whole thing, your body and soul.
So good. Yeah. The healing of the whole through every broken part, restoration. How gorgeous is that? And patience, right, everybody? Patience. This is a lifetime of healing and coming back to wholeness.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking about, our viewers who are obviously our Catholic viewers, but this is what happened to this woman when she touched the hem of his garment.
Yeah.
What could happen to you when you come to Mass with a heart that's just cleaved open with longing, and you receive his body into your body?
Oof.
It's healing. It's meant to heal.
Yeah.
I'm thinking right now of this is funny. The years ago, do you ever watch back in the day the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon? Did you ever watch that?
Here and there, not too often.
Okay, you know how he used to do those thank you segments where he'd write thank you cards or something?
Vaguely.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, go ahead.
He did this one thing where someone he was writing a thank you note to aspirin or something, and he was saying that before I take an aspirin, I whisper to the aspirin and tell it where I need it to work on me before I take it, or something it's hilarious, right? I have a headache, swallow.
Go there. Do your work.
We should be doing something like that when we approach in communion.
Yes.
This is where I hurt, Lord. This is where I need your power to touch my body.
Oh, I love that.
To touch my life, to touch me right now.
Mm-hmm. Wow, there's an axio right there. That the next time we receive the Blessed Sacrament, receive Holy Communion. What a beautiful sort of, we say examination of conscience. It's like an examination of my bodiliness. Where am I hurting? Yeah. My thoughts, my head, my brain, my heart, anywhere else.
Yeah, where am I bleeding out today?
Yeah. And imagining the Lord, because this is what is literally happening physically, right? You are what you eat. You become what you behold. So he can come in and radiate power.
That's it.
Wow. Great stuff, Father Pat.
There you go.
So we have this great art, and this is an Armenian artist, you said, you believe?
I think he's Argentinian, actually.
Argentinian, okay.
Daniel Carriola.
Daniel Carriola,
The
okay.
Encounter.
Awesome.
At the Magdalene Center. At Notre Dame Center in Magdala.
I'm sure glad you got to go. That didn't get scrapped. And I do have holy jealousy that you were in the Holy Land. I still have to get there. It's on my bucket list.
So
awesome.
good.
Well, I'm sure there's probably many more memories and images that you can steal from that in future episodes, I'm sure. We thank everyone for once again tuning in for our journey through the way of wonder. And remember, gang, this is really a spirituality. We've talked about this in previous episodes, but this spirituality of wonder is about this awareness, this alertness, this openness. And with it comes a gratitude and a humility. And we start to see everything as his art in our life. Right? Not just beautiful things that we reveal to you, but all the experiences of our life, even the ones that aren't so beautiful. When we have the spirituality of wonder and we say, Lord, what are you saying to me and speaking to me? We can start seeing some change, and praise God, what a gift it is. All right. We'll see you next week. It'll be my turn. Father Pat, great to see you again, and we'll see you next week.
You too, buddy.